time, 140. What does that mean? 140. That's how many days of the most important election of our lives. I count down every day to remind us how close we are to Judgment Day. Judgment Day for our values in this nation. I say every day the same thing. Stay angry. And you know, Trump gives us reason to stay angry every single day. In fact, today Donald Trump had a press conference on policing, and he spoke of the stock market. He slammed Obama and Biden. He talked about retail sales. He went after China. But on this press conference on policing, what did Donald Trump not talk about and not say? Systemic racism, police brutality, or Black Lives Matter. Because none of those things matter to him. He talked about the issues that were important to him. The stock market, jobs, blaming China, going after Obama and Biden. He does not want to address systemic racism. He doesn't believe there is systemic racism. He's told us that. Also, during the campaign in 2016, when asked about Black Lives Matter, he called it trouble, his exact words, trouble, and said in response, all lives matter, and found the term divisive. And of course, police brutality he does not believe exists whatsoever because he's never used the terms police and brutality at any time. And so he had an executive order today. We'll go through it in some detail on the show. The executive order is meaningless. He is literally trying to, as he said, encourage, not mandate, encourage the police to do good things. And at this press conference, like he does every day and every time he speaks, he lied. He went after Obama and Biden and said when they were there for 8 years, they could never do any police reforms. Some of them in the media played that clip without instantly fact-checking it. That's an absolute lie. What the Obama administration did is enter into 14 consent decrees with various municipalities. These consent decrees were enforced essentially by law, Department of Justice, and the municipalities to address police misconduct in terms of practice and procedure. So in Ferguson, Missouri, for example, after Michael Brown was killed, to address racial profiling, the use of force, and the list goes on. 14 of them Obama entered into, municipalities. How many has Trump entered into with the municipalities to change their conduct for the better? 5, 3, 0. In fact, under Jeff Sessions, they undermined the 14 consent decrees the Obama administration entered into. Why? Jeff Sessions said consent decrees are bad for police morale. See, the police don't want to be policed. They want to go out there and do whatever they want without any concern about any kind of backlash because for generations, they've not been held accountable. So it is a fundamental change for them to hear they're going to be held accountable. Not saying all the police officers are bad people. Not at all. I'm just saying their culture is one in which they have not been held accountable. So we're trying to change the culture now, and that's a big part of what's going on. Donald Trump also said the Obama administration did nothing on policing in terms of addressing it. That's a lie. The Obama administration did a detailed 21st century task force on policing. In it, they have 6 pillars. I'm Muslim. We only have 5 pillars. This was one more pillar than Islam. They have 6 pillars. 6 pillars to deal with policing in a way to make it better. From training to police oversight, which is accountability is really important, the use of technology. But the thrust of it, when you read through these pillars and through the report, is this. It is simply this. The police should work in alliance with the community. It should not be a situation where the police, when they're speaking to you, they're always about trying to get you as opposed to trying to help you. So your whole attitude to the police is different. When you know they're trying to get you with everything you do, and any question they ask is to give you a ticket, to arrest you, to hurt you, as opposed to the police actually helping you, being part of the community. You know, in Camden, they've talked a great deal about Camden, New Jersey. Let's make it clear. There is a police force in the streets in Camden. It's not like some have said the police have been dissolved. The city police force of Camden, that was dissolved years ago. They contracted with the county. The county police now police the streets of Camden. There are literally more police officers on the streets now in Camden than when there was a city police. Crime has gone down and over 90% reduction in complaints of excessive force. Why? It is this simple. This was what needs to be addressed. The culture of policing. In this 21st century report, and yesterday Paul Butler was on my show, former federal prosecutor, MSNBC contributor, made a great point right from the report. Law enforcement culture should embrace a guardian rather than warrior mindset. Guardian, not warrior. Think about that. Warriors go out, run amok, do whatever they're going to do. They're going to save some people, but some are going to die. But they're not there to be your friend. They're not there to be your ally. They're warriors. Guardians are there to help you. And this is a fundamental change we need in our police, dealing with that culture, including the idea of not just incentivizing police through getting raises and promotions based on how many arrests they make, as opposed to how much they've worked with the community. And Paul Butler, a former prosecutor, made a great point. Even when he was a prosecutor, prosecutors were rewarded with promotions and raises based on how many convictions they got. So again, our system is set up to incentivize prosecution, arrests, prosecutions, and then putting people into the prison industrial complex. And by the way, two of the biggest private prisons have given Donald Trump over, in one case, $350,000 and $250,000 to his inaugural committee when they got, after he was elected before the inauguration. So we're going to go through a lot of that. We're going to go through some of what other people have suggested have been on my show and play you a cross-section of clips so you can hear what you think is going to change the culture. Look, systemic racism is a big part of it. That has to be addressed fundamentally. That is part of this change. Also acknowledging the fact that there is police brutality and also acknowledging that Black lives matter. It's all part and parcel of changing a culture. But when the man in the White House is saying today, as he did, there's only a tiny amount of bad cops, and I can't quantify it, but by reducing it to that all the time, it's hard to believe. It's hard to believe you're taking this seriously. If it's just a tiny amount of cops, then why is it that Black men have a 3 times higher rate of being killed by the police than a white man? Is it that tiny amount of cops that's killing 3 times as many Black men? Why is it that if you're Black, you have a 20% greater likelihood of being pulled over by the cops? 20% nationwide. Is that a tiny amount of cops doing that? Or the fact that when you do get pulled over, if you're Black or brown, you have a much higher percentage of having your car searched. Is that a tiny percentage? No. It's systemic. It's through our entire policing. That is the hardest thing to root out because racism is part of our culture. Our police reflect our culture. So what we can do is change the culture of the policing. That's the number one thing. We're going to talk about it. And I want to hear from you, especially former police officers. Some have been calling the show, and their insight is great. They've been very blunt and honest. They're generally officers who are of color, former officers who share how they think the culture can change. Because this is not just training's going to do it. Or here's a little transparency, a little bit more. It is a holistic approach. And the Obama-Biden 21st Century Policing Task Force, the 6 pillars, great starting point. In fact, Trump literally lifted things about today from his speech. Literally lifted stuff today. And our media apparently doesn't read anything because they don't even call it out. Am I frustrated with the mainstream media? Yeah, a lot. What can I tell you, my friends? All right, we got a great show tonight. Danny Savalas, MSNBC legal analyst, is going to join us as well. Again, my show is live 6 to 9 p.m. on SiriusXM channel 127 Progress. Join us there. And also, if you don't have SiriusXM, if you go to the website right there, it says free trial. Just click. You can try out SiriusXM. Check out my show, the other shows as well. Or drop me an email. Questions, comments, dean@deanofradio.com, facebook.com/deanofradio. Thanks for tuning in to tonight's preview of the Dean Obeidallah Show.